What's going on, everybody? Today, I have a really awesome guest. So, you're here because you don't want to live a normal life. You think being average is disgusting. You want to live the best possible life that you possibly can. Everybody in here, we're all striving to become financially free and aim to be extremely mentally and physically healthy as we possibly can. Well, the best way to get what you want, I got this from Tony Robbins, is he said to learn from and model those who have achieved exactly what you want. So today, our guest today is a man named John Sonmez. Now, John, he was actually able to retire at the age of 33, and he ended up moving down to Maui. But once he got there, he realized that it wasn't the nirvana that he was, quite expecting. It actually went through a huge depression. We're going to get a little bit more into that during the interview. Today, he does have 3 businesses, and this guy's fucking jacked. This man's 235 pounds of solid muscle. He's ran several marathons and is currently training to run an ultra marathon, which is 100 miles. As a matter of fact, before this interview, he just finished running 10 miles on a strained foot, like fucking David Goggins. John has a YouTube channel called Bulldog Mindset, which has 250,000 subscribers, and he teaches men how to become financially independent, get the physique they want, and get the girls they want. The Bulldog Mindset also has a lot of Stoic philosophies interwoven in there. We're going to dive deeper into that as well. By the end of this interview, you're going to feel like it's possible for you to accomplish the really big goals you have. You'll have the confidence that you too can live a life that you really want to live, and you'll get to see how mentally tough are you? How much of the Bulldog Mindset do you have? So John's going to direct you over there and show you how you can access that. So John, thanks for joining us today, man.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Man, that was the best intro that anyone's ever given me. I have to say, I have to have you write my bio from now on, because that was excellent.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that. So John, I know that when you were 19, you got a job that was a well-paying job that allowed you to live a comfortable lifestyle as a software engineer. Walk us through, when did you start having thoughts about becoming financially free and becoming an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So, one thing I sort of figured out when I got this job, so it was kind of good that I got this job at about 19. I got a job making $75 an hour, which was insane. I think I was making like $25 an hour at that point. And this is, 20 years ago. And I moved to Santa Monica, California, just put everything in my geo metro. I was like, yeah, I'll take the job. Right. And when I got there, and I also had some per diem. So some of it was tax free because I lived out of state. And so it was basically the equivalent of making $150,000 to $170,000 a year, right? At 19 years old. So I was like, all right, I'm rich. I'm thinking, okay, can't get much better than that. Who's making much more money than I am, especially at that age. And so I started running the numbers. I started kind of calculating things. I was trying to, kind of stacking my money. Right. And when I ran the numbers, it was sort of like a sobering experience for me. Right. Because I figured, this was a dream. I couldn't really make much more money than this as a software developer. Right. I had already just kind of hit the jackpot here. And so I ran the numbers and I was like, okay, how long before I'm a millionaire? Because that's a good milestone, right? It's not rich, but it's, if you're a millionaire, that's a good milestone. So then I looked at, the $150,000. And then I said, okay, well, I'm going to have to pay taxes on that. So there goes a good $40,000-$50,000 worth of that. And then I have to live. And, at the time I was like, okay, well, I can live frugally. I can live off of maybe $30,000 a year, right? Just sleep on a mattress on the floor, which is what I did for a while, and try to save up as much money as possible. And so I figured, okay, so I could, if I saved every penny I have, I could probably save, maybe $70,000 a year. But even if I just gave myself the benefit of the doubt and said, okay, somehow I can scrape together and save $100,000 a year, okay, which wasn't really realistic, then it would take me 10 years to become a millionaire. But I forgot about inflation. So then I said, well, wait a minute. So a millionaire 10 years from now won't be a millionaire as it is now. So if you factor in inflation, then it's about 13 or 14 years. So I would have to sleep on a mattress on the floor, okay, and keep this job for that long and not go out and not buy anything and basically just save money for 14 years, okay, just to become a millionaire, which is not rich, which is not retired. It's just a millionaire. And so, and I didn't factor in like investing or anything like that. I just, just looking at the money aspect of it. And so here I was, at 19 thinking I was rich, and I wasn't rich at all. I wasn't even close to rich, like $170,000 a year, $150,000 a year, nothing. It's chump change. It didn't matter because it's so far away from even reaching the milestone of a millionaire that's when I realized, okay, it was a wake up call. I was like, how do people actually get rich then? Because who's making more money than me? I mean, what if I was making $200,000 a year? It would still take like a ridiculous amount of time. And who could make more than that, right? So I was thinking, there's no way possibly that you could get rich working a regular job. I don't even care if you're making $300,000 a year. You're still not going to get rich. Maybe you'll get to millionaire status a little bit faster if you scrimp and save every penny. So I started looking around and I started investigating. And I said, okay, how did people actually get rich in America? And it came back to real estate all the time. Every single one of them, like 90% of the wealth was real estate. And in fact, this was 20 years ago, right? So I know there's going to be some people that are going to be some haters on here, but one of the people that I stumbled across and started studying 20 years ago was Donald Trump, actually. Right. So because he was extremely successful in real estate. So, and this is 20 years ago. Right. So it's kind of funny because I been following him for a long time. So it's kind of interesting to see like, what's happened, not to get political, but regardless if you love him or hate him, he definitely had some success in the past in real estate. And he was someone that I'd learned a lot about real estate from. And so that was the thing, is like, just seeing that and doing the math, that showed me that, okay, you have to do something else. Okay. And at that time, I wasn't wise enough to understand about building a business so much, but I knew I needed to do something else. So my plan at that point was, okay, I was going to save up as much money as I could. And instead of just putting in the bank or even on a mutual fund or index fund where I was going to get because I ran the numbers like that as well, right? I was like, okay, let's say I get a 7% return, how long will it take me? And I save all my money. It didn't reduce it very, very much at all. Because the thing about compounding interest is it needs a lot of time, right? So it doesn't help you get rich any faster. That's the problem that most people don't understand is compounding interest. Sure, it's great. If you have 100 years, compounding interest, I mean, when you look at like the rich families of the world, like the Rothschilds and whatnot, hundreds of years of compound interest, it's insane. Okay. But 10 years doesn't matter. Right. So then I looked at it and I said, okay, I'm going to invest my money and I'm going to buy a rental property every single year. I'll buy one property. And then I ran the numbers. Okay. And again, I ran the numbers out because I said, okay, if I'm going to do something like this, I need to know it's better than than the two other paths that I looked at. And when I ran those numbers out, I was like, okay, well, at worst case scenario, in 15 years, I'll be financially set for the rest of my life, not just millionaire, but multimillionaire, like $3 million around. And basically, before that point, I could have passive income coming in to the point where I could retire younger, maybe in like 10 years, and that asset would still grow. So that's what sort of put me on that path. I still didn't have all the pieces there, but I knew, the biggest lesson, like the reason why that was so good was because early on in life, I learned that making money from a regular job, there's no way you're getting rich doing that.
Yeah. Now, when you were going on this journey, like, so you basically it sounds like that you didn't really have too much mentors besides books and looking it up yourself. Is that?
Yeah, pretty much. And it was just books and it was books and hard knocks, right? It was just figuring some of the shit out. I spent hours, I still do. See, and this was also good because a lot of the stuff that I say about real estate investing or investing in general or life, it comes from here and spreadsheets, right? It's like I had to calculate this stuff myself because there wasn't a lot of really good material. Like nowadays, you can look online and there's so many sites. There's Bigger Pockets. There's YouTube videos out there. There's so much good content out there to teach you how to invest in real estate or to build a business and stuff like that. But back then, it was me in spreadsheets. I was like, and I would run I'd be at work and I'd show one of my coworkers and they'd be like, yeah, that's not going to work. You're ridiculous. Like there's no way. There's something wrong with your math there. And I'd double check. I'd be like, no, wait a minute. Look, okay, if I buy a property every single year, Okay. And I'm paying them down this much amount, and I have this depreciation and I'm getting this cash flow. Look, I'm going to be retired in like 7-8 years while you guys are still working here. And but I basically, and I made mistakes right along the way. Like I have so many stories of rental property mistakes, but yeah, it was whatever books I could find, which there weren't very many, and then just going out there and taking action. I mean, so many people are afraid to take action, right? That's the best way that we learn. So what? You make a mistake and you move on, but the more action you take, then the more mistakes you make, you get over those mistakes, and then you move on and you grow. But if you don't take action, you can read all the books you want, you can get all the mentors you want, but if you don't take action, none of that shit matters.
Most definitely. So you really put in so much time and energy and effort taking action, failing and learning and getting feedback and then adjusting. So over the course of time, you stayed with your job while at the same time purchasing stuff for real estate. And then you get to 33, you're able to, retire. You get what you want as far as you go down to Maui. You wanted to play video games, and that was the kind of like life that you wanted. But why was it that once you achieved everything that you set out to do, the past 10 years or so you've been working towards, why was it a depressing moment for you rather than like a invigorating, like super fulfilled and like a championship moment?
Right. Good question. So I think let me connect the dot first, and then I'll answer that question, the dots here, because when I retired at 33, it was not just from the real estate, right? So I had started building business and creating online courses and things like that. So that really accelerated that path of growth. But my focus was on retiring young. That was my goal in life. And this is all part of why that depression happened, is because everything I remember, I had this epiphany at 19. Okay. So from 19 up until 33, I had pretty much one major focus in my life, one major goal, which was to retire, right? To be able to live on the beach and play video games, right? That was, at that time, that's what I was thinking. And so I spent all this time and all this effort working towards that goal. And so what happens, there's this strange phenomenon that happens when you achieve a goal, especially a goal that you've devoted so much of your life to, is now you see, the thing that makes us feel fulfilled and happy in life is purpose. Like we have to be on our purpose. Like we have a mission. And that's why even like things like video games are addicting, right? I mean, what is playing a video game? It doesn't benefit you anything. It's just moving some sprite on the screen, but it has a purpose. There's a mission, right? You're going to gain a level, you're going to beat the boss, you're going to get the score, whatever it is, save the maiden, it has a purpose. And that's why it's so addicting to us, because we're feeling like we're fulfilling that purpose. We're getting closer to that thing. Okay. So it's the same thing with life in general. And so when you have this really big goal, like I did, and then you fulfill that goal, you complete that goal, what ends up happening is you're left with this void, because your whole life was built around this purpose. You had a purpose, you had a mission, you had something that you were driving towards. And then even when you achieve that, you enjoy that achievement for some time, but what it turns out is that the things that make us happy and like I said, fulfilled in life have nothing to do with what we actually have, right? There's this concept of the hedonistic treadmill, right? The more that you have, the more that, it's like even today, right? Like in the United States of America today, so many people complain and they actually think they're in poverty. There's no one in poverty here. No, if you have a cell phone, you're not in poverty. Like the level of wealth that the poorest person in the United States has here is extreme. It's extreme compared to the rest of the world, right? But the reason why those people feel like they're poor is because it's relative, right? And again, so it doesn't matter if you get all these things, right? Because you say, people in the US are so much better off than they were 100 years ago, right? The poorest of the poor are rich in comparison, but they don't feel any more rich, because it's not about what you get or what you have. It's about who you're becoming in that process. And so what happened for me was, I reached this goal, and in my mind, like reaching this goal was this amazing thing, and you're going to have, celebrations and pop-up bottle of champagne and just like, yeah, okay, I'm retired, I'm rich now, I'm a millionaire, I never have to work again. And that wasn't the reality. The reality of the situation was that it really didn't feel any much different than normal life. And then, I tried to like play video games and just chill. And it was so depressing because I didn't have the purpose. I didn't have anything I was driving towards in my life anymore. And I just felt guilty the whole time. Like I should be doing something better than this. And so I couldn't actually enjoy it. And so, yeah, so eventually what ended up happening was I had to go back and go work. And I struggled with this for a long time in my life. Like just this concept of, why can't you relax, John? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, why don't you just relax? Like everything, it doesn't have to be life or death. Like you don't have to push yourself to the limit every single day on every single thing that you do. And I tried to fix this defect in myself. Right. And I went back and forth on this many times and, and tried to take off. And even after this happened, I had tried to like put my business on autopilot and hire a CEO to run it. And then I could just like, take my time and whatnot. And what I found finally, I think probably within the last 2 years, is that I thrive on pushing myself to the limit. Like that life is about going and pushing yourself. And that is where you find the most fulfillment and joy in life. And so it's kind of all connected, right? I think there's multiple things going on. One is just that anytime you achieve a goal and you achieve that goal, you're going to feel depressed if the goal is about what you get. Okay. So I have a new way that I set goals now it's when I set a goal, like running this 100-mile race, it's not about what I get. It's not about even competing because I'm 230 some pounds. I'm not going to be winning that race, but what it's about is it's about who I become in the process. So my goals used to be about what will I get. Now my goals are about who I become. And that is critical because it's a never ending thing. Because at the end of reaching this goal, I'm not left without a purpose because I just leveled up, right? I've become, the whole point of it was something to stretch me towards so that I could grow, right? It's just looking for some anchor that I can toss my grappling hook to, something so that I can pull myself in that direction, it forcing me to grow. So that I think that was going on. And then, like I said, just this idea, this concept of, should you rest? Should you enjoy yourself and take and really no, we're not built to do that. We're built to push ourselves and to drive ourselves. Like the most best feeling I think that you'll have in your life, most content feeling will be after a job well done. Right. After you do some really hard work and you get it done. And that's, and that's the thing is like, we're always fighting against that thing, like trying to take it easy, wanting to retire for the purpose of not having to work again. No, it's a wrong idea to pursue. Instead, we need to realize that it's when we accomplish things, when we push ourselves to our limits, that's when we feel the greatest achievement and sense of purpose and we're really living our lives. And so, yeah, so that's kind of the journey that I took.
Wow. So that's very powerful, man. So now you're like internally motivated and James Clear actually talks about this in his book, Atomic Habits as well. And Jim Rohn talked about, it's not like what it is, like all about who you become at the end of everything. So at this point right now, you're running this ultra marathon, and you talked about purpose being like the biggest driving force. So if there isn't something like outside, like the external thing for the anchor to oh, this is what I really, really want. What's your purpose at this point? Like what keeps you, like, who do you want to become?
Yeah, it changes I actually really liked, it was kind of interesting because I sort of developed this philosophy and then I saw Matthew McConaughey on at some movie award or something. And he was like, he said something about who's your hero? Someone asked me and he said, it's me 10 years from now. Right. And I was like, he's doing the same thing that I do. Right. And that's kind of what it is. I envision myself of who I want to become. So it's always changing, right? It's always like, I'm always envisioning who I'm going to become, not someone else, but my own version of myself. And that's really when my life started to change, is when I envisioned that. But it's connected to purpose too. And I think, because purpose, I've sort of discovered what I think is the best way to discover your purpose in life, because everyone is always asking, how do I find my purpose in life? And what I have found is that in order to find your purpose in life, all you have to do is think about the thing that you would do no matter what station you were in life, no matter what circumstances, and that no one can stop you from doing. You're already living your purpose. You can't do anything but live your purpose. It's just when you start to realize what that purpose is, then you can actively put your efforts towards that purpose. So, for example, right, for me, it doesn't matter if I was a janitor. It doesn't matter if I was a president of the United States. It doesn't matter whatever role I've ever been in my life. I've always learned the best way to do something, assimilated that knowledge as best as possible, and then taught it to other people. That's my purpose. I will always do that. If you look at all my businesses, if you look at all my jobs, you look at everything I've done, no matter what role I was ever in, I always did that. I always took what was out there, figured out a better way to do it, or how to simplify the knowledge, and then share it to other people. If I was a janitor, I'd figure out the best way to mop the floor, and then I would show the other janitors how to do that, because that's my purpose, right? And we're all living our purpose already. And all you have to do to discover your purpose is just look back on your life and just say, what is the thing that I always do? What is it that I always do? And that's what your purpose is. But so that's what my purpose is, and that's what drives me. And so the freeing thing about that also is because a lot of people confuse their purpose with their devotion or their calling or their job or whatever it is. And it's not. It doesn't matter. See, the thing is, like, it doesn't matter what you do. It matters how you do it. And when you're living and understanding what your purpose is, the how you do it is what fulfills the purpose, not the what. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the what is. And so, because we get so caught up and we're like, oh, should I do this or should I do that? I don't know if this is my passion, or I don't know if I'm going down the right road. All the roads are right. There's no wrong road. You just go down a road, and it's how you live your life and how you fulfill that mission, that purpose in life, that matters. Not to say that there's not some roads that are better than others, or just some choices to make in life. Of course there is in life and business. But ultimately, the thing that matters more is that you're picking something, and that you are choosing to bring out your purpose in that. And that's what brings the passion to it. Because, see, we don't have passions for things. We bring passion to the things that we do. And I think that's such an important thing to understand if you're really going to find, because it's not just about being successful, right? And again, this is the reason why I say all this stuff is because I went down the path, like we talked about, and I hit all my goals, and hit my retirement at 33, and I was extremely unhappy. And it was because I didn't understand these other higher level concepts, because I thought it was all about making the money, getting the girls, all of those things. And when I achieved all of those things, I realized it wasn't about any of those things. And you could have all of those things, and you could be worse off than you were before you had all those things. Instead, it was about who you were becoming, and understanding and living your purpose, and how you're doing the things that you're doing that matters.
Holy shit. That was powerful. That was like fucking poetic. That's incredible, man. I got to actually go back and listen to that again. That was like, boom, some truth bombs. Okay. And I can definitely see that you are like, your purpose is in, like, you learn something and you go back and teach it. Is like, it's apparent in your Instagram how much action you take, but also your YouTube, having almost 3,000 videos. That's like massive action. And that's like, yeah, you're collecting data, whatever, and you're giving it back and showing people the way, like the best way you have found from your experience, which I think is the best way to come to teach, is not from the ivory tower, but through the actual experience. Yeah. Also, just speaking about the 3,000 videos on Bulldog Mindset, talk about, like, how did the Bulldog Mindset come about? Yeah.
So originally that YouTube channel, it's kind of confusing, but it was called Simple Programmer, because that's my other company. One of my other companies is Simple Programmer. And that's initially where I started out really in the business world, was and that company still exists, and it has its own YouTube channel now, even though this one, converted over. So I decided to start up a YouTube channel for it again. But that company is based on teaching soft skills to software developers, right? So social communication and career skills for software developers. But what ended up happening was, again, and this is a reflection of my purpose, I've always sort of taught whatever I'm learning, right, and going through in life. And so, as I was developing and growing as a software developer, I was teaching a lot of software development skills and teaching, as I was learning to market myself as a software developer, I was teaching marketing and branding and all of those things to software developers, right, to my audience. And as I started, kind of hitting that retirement, where I hit that retirement, and I started really going through these changes. There's a couple of different changes that happened in my life, right? The first transformation was really the one of envisioning who you want to become, right? Of getting rid of some of those barriers. And that kind of led me to some of the success I had up to the point of being able to retire young. But the second transformation sort of came after that. And that was a mental transformation in the sense of really one of personal development, right? Of letting go of old ideas and beliefs and learning to hold on to effective beliefs, not necessarily true beliefs, which was very difficult for me as an engineer with my analytical mind to grasp. But the best way to think about this is Dumbo's feather, right? Dumbo's feather, it didn't actually make him fly, but it was more effective for him to hold that belief because it allowed him to fly. And so many times we're focused on the truth when we can't really know the truth, but instead we should focus on what beliefs and what ideas are going to be effective in our life that are going to produce the results that we want, whether they're true or not. So I know that it's kind of a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, but so I don't blame anyone that says that sounds like a little crazy, but believe me, I thought it was crazy as well. But I started to really read a lot of books and the reason why I say this is because, I read books like Think and Grow Rich, which the first time I read that book, I threw it in the trash can. I was like, that is ridiculous. That is some nonsense. He didn't cure his son's hearing by, this craziness, right? I'm like, okay, no way. All right. But I kept on talking to a lot of really successful people and they kept on saying, read that book. So I said, okay, fine. You know what? The thing about ignorance is that by definition, you are unaware of your own ignorance. So it's like, that scene in Princess Bride where he's like, oh, you can't, the poison, I forget what the poison's called. You can't smell it. You can't taste it. You can't touch, it can't feel you can't detect it at all. That's your own ignorance. You cannot detect your own ignorance. You have no way of knowing, right? To you, if you're ignorant, the people who are wiser than you appear as fools. It feels like you are the smart one when you're ignorant. And so what I basically said was, okay, if from now on in life, if someone's more successful than me, regardless if they seem like they're smoking crack, regardless of whatever kind of craziness they say, if they seem like they're dumb, I'm going to at least give them the benefit of the doubt. And I'm going to assume that they must know something that I don't know, or they're more intelligent than me or wise in me in some way. And I'm ignorant, because if I make that assumption, sometimes I'll be wrong and it'll be they're just some idiot. But a lot of times I'll be right, and I will be the ignorant one, and I'll learn a lot and I'll grow a lot. And that's the only cure for your ignorance. Is the only way to, because you can't detect it. So I started to get really into personal development books, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, read all kinds of classical type of books, Awaken the Giant Within, Tony Robbins, went to Tony Robbins' seminar, right? Which is some crazy shit, right? It's and I was totally against it too. I was there with my laptop and, people are dancing and hugging. And I'm like, where am I doing? I tried to leave. And then one of the coaches was like, dude, you can't leave yet. You got to. So I stayed. I was like, fine. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. But that kind of stuff really changed my life. In amazing ways, my whole personality changed, everything changed, all these things, my confidence, all kinds of things that I didn't realize I was dealing with. I realigned my value systems, right? And I began to understand myself. I stopped putting expectations on people and stopped letting them put expectations on me. So many things changed. So I started teaching those things, a lot of those things on the Simple Programmer channel. And it was good. I mean, a lot of people liked it as programmers, but it started to really have less and less to do with programming and even soft skills for software developers. And, at the same time, I was getting a lot more physically fit. starting to run, I think training for marathons and stuff, and just, developing the kind of bulldog mindset, that work ethic that I have now. And a couple of times people had mentioned in the comments on some of the videos I made, they would ask me, and multiple people said this same exact phrase. They said, how do I get that bulldog mindset that you have? Right. And so after seeing it like 2 or 3 times, I was like, all right, that's something. Like, if multiple people are saying the same thing, they're thinking of the mindset I have as a bulldog mindset, then maybe it's about time that I create a new company focused on that. And kind of around that same time, I was also going through this third transition phase, really one into more of a masculinity, right? Because that was something also that I hadn't really connected with in life. It was like, I felt like a grown boy, even though I was achieving all these things. And yet, I was like, what makes someone become a man? And I had to start grasping and tackling that. And so I was learning those things as I was kind of learning and developing myself. And so I started teaching those things. And so that really was where Bulldog Mindset came from. It came from this idea of, okay, I've got this new sort of life philosophy built on Stoic philosophy. Okay. And I'm teaching all these things as I'm learning and growing. And I want to really create something that's focused on helping men become men, right? Today, strong men, and understanding the Stoic philosophy, mastering their emotions, building themselves financially, like these lessons that I learned to build financial independence, the fitness type of lessons I learned to become an actual strong man, and then the dating and female dynamics type of lessons that I was learning as well. So that's where really Bulldog Mindset came from.
Wow. And how long did it take you to transition from, basically boyhood to manhood, just psychologically?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say that it was probably a period of about 2 years that once I really started to focus on that. I mean, some of it was happening already as I was unlocking some of the things with like kind of Tony Robbins and personal development, right? But I started really reading a lot of literature on it because there's not a lot of literature on it. Kind of the best literature, I would say, a friend of mine, Jack Donovan, he has a book called The Way of Men. Highly recommend that book. There's another book by Rollo Tomassi called, I just forgot that name.
The Rational Male.
Yeah, Rational Male. And then, there's Iron John. That's more of like an interpretation of a fairy tale that has mythological, think Joseph Campbell type of content, but really good. And then I'm trying to think what else. Oh, David Data, The Way of the Superior Man, is actually really good as well. Highly recommend that book, especially for dealing with relationships, right? And understanding the masculinity in a relationship. And I think kind of Tony Robbins kind of started going me down this path, because I remember on the last day of the Date with Destiny seminar, he had, this was one of the things that clicked in my head. He had all the men like stand up in the room because he did like a masculine and feminine and yell like just this war cry. And the women just like reacted with unconscious, like they couldn't help themselves. They were like going crazy. So I was like, there's something to this masculine force. And it's like, I don't feel like I really have it. And so I really started exploring that. And I had a lot of fear and things in my life. And so what ended up happening actually, in what I teach guys today about how, that transition of becoming a man, was that I sort of discovered 2 main things that were required in order to become a man today. And it's the same thing. Like if you look at our history of people, we used to have tribal rituals. We used to have initiation rites for manhood, right? And what you'll see is that these things kind of mirror the 2 points that I'm going to give you here. So the big thing I discovered is one thing. In order to become a man, you must kill your father, metaphorically, right? What this means is that you must dismiss the value systems of your father. It means that you must assume the king role, right? Because you have to get rid of the judgment and the idea that your value comes from the value that your father assigns you, right? Because as we're children, as we're young, right, the father is the man, the king of the house. It's his tribe, and you are valued in that tribe based on his value system. And so as a boy becomes a man, he must overthrow his father. He must say, I reject your value system. I am my own king now, and I have my own value system, and I don't rely on your judgment. I don't need your approval. I rely on my own judgment, my own approval. I say what things are good and what things are bad, not you. And that's hard. It's hard to do. And when I did this, I had a breakaway from my own father for about 2 years where he wouldn't even talk to me. Right. I didn't allow anyone to put guilt on me. I said, no, I make my own decisions, and I make them because I want to. I don't do anything out of obligation anymore. Anything that I do it out of my own free will. And that was part of it. So that's step one, I think, is like I said, metaphorically killing your father. And then the second one is really has to do with facing the demons of fear and your own mortality, right? Which is that you would get to a point in life where you decide to accept full responsibility and full consequences for your actions. Right. So what that means is to stop living a fearful life and to say, I'm going to live my life how I choose and do what I want and accept whatever consequences may come. And that is a scary thing to do, right? To go out there and say, because we're always trying to live under some protection, right? Again, a lot of it's the protection of our father, but some kind of protection of the world, or some kind of escape from our consequences, or we play it safe. We build these fortresses around us. We try to build security, right? And instead it's to say, you know what? I'm going to go out there. I'm going to take my shot. If I die, I die. Right. And I realized I was living my life a lot in fear, and a lot of things I was doing were based out of fear. And the reason why it's so important, because a man must have courage. Courage is essential to manhood, and to have your own value system and to make your own judgment calls. Like, the biggest thing that defines a man, in my opinion, is trusting your own judgment above any other thing. And so much of us and so much of the world relies on us accepting other people's judgment systems, right? We value ourselves based on what other people think of us, not what we think of ourselves. And it puts us in a bad place. So I had to go through that whole kind of process. And I say it took about 2 years. And kind of facing those demons and dealing with those things, and then coming out the other end. You can even see it in my YouTube videos, right? Like, it's like, if you go back to my earliest videos on the YouTube channel, you can see the John that had the high pitched squeaky voice. I can't even impersonate it now, but I had this really high pitched voice. I lacked confidence to a large degree. It was a total different presence than the presence that I have now. And that was like 5 years ago. So you can see, visibly, not just from a physical standpoint, but from the manifestations in the entire personality and my voice and tonality and all of those things, that transformation of going from boy to man.
Wow. And I know that's not easy at first, right? You start giving yourself permission to go and break away from the crowd and decide to be on your own path. It's definitely not easy. Then once you're like, okay, once you get some reference experience under your belt and you see people start to react to you differently, and you're like, whoa, like this is crazy. This is like new territory. And it's funny enough, because it's harder to do, like, to be able to, like, as you mentioned, not doing things, you don't do anything from obligation, you do it for free will because you want to do it.
Right.
And it's funny enough you mentioned that, because I find myself in that transition right now where I just watched a video of yours on YouTube where you were saying you don't have to explain yourself. And I have people who want to hang out, and I'm like, look, like I can't, and I have business stuff. We can hang out later on. And it's challenging to put your foot down in that way, because you care about these people, and they might get offended, right? But you're like, no, like, this is how I decide to live my life. It's a very, very powerful concept just to go through internally. Now,
there's so when you type an email, this is kind of a good exercise, right? Because I never apologize, explain, or complain, right? So let's say that you're responding to someone's email that's like 3 days late, like you're 3 days late responding to it, right? Or you have to turn someone down. Your fingers will automatically start to type, hey, sorry, and then you're like, oh shit, I can't say sorry. So it's like, and then your next thing will be like, I'm finally just catching up on my email now. I had a lot of shit I'm explaining. So then you realize that the right thing to do is to just answer it. Not apologize, not explain, just answer the email. That's it. And that's like, it's a good exercise because you get a lot of emails. So it teaches you. And then anytime you're in a conversation with someone, you'll stop saying sorry and you'll stop explaining yourself and you'll just start saying the thing. Just, take me as I am. This is what it is. And if you do something wrong, because then people complain, they're like, oh, well, John, why don't you ever apologize? Don't you ever do anything wrong? Yeah. If I do something wrong, I just state I did something wrong. I don't need to apologize. I intended to do it. Apologies are for accidents. Everything that I do, I intend to do. So I did it. It might have been the wrong thing and I might regret having done it, but here it is. I did it. For example, let's say you show up late for work because you didn't wake up when your alarm goes off and your boss says, hey, you're late. You say, yeah, I'm late. My alarm went off. I ignored it and I didn't come on time. And that's it. You don't explain. You don't say, oh, I was tired. No. You just say it. And I'm ready to accept whatever consequences that entails. That's it. And you get into the habit of doing that. And now you're in control.
Mm-hmm. And that shows really the full ownership of your decisions. And like, yeah, I own it. Like this is, and wow. So right now I know you're doing, you're training for your ultra marathon. You push yourself to the limit every single day. Like, do you have like a set routine that you do? Do you have something that you do in the morning to get you, ready for the day, or is it kind of random? Like, how does that look for you?
Yeah, I don't really do the morning routine thing. I found that I tried to do it for some period of time, but I found that what ended up happening was it was an obstacle for me because it would take time and then I would feel like I would dread having to do all these things before I could actually get to work. So, I mean, for the most part, I get up at 5:45 most mornings and then I just go and get my run done. Because I usually have a run every day now with this kind of training because it's a lot, might be running 80 miles in a week or so. And then, but my day is usually more scheduled in the sense that I use a time management system that I created that sort of uses a Kanban board. You can think like a Trello board. And then I schedule everything into Pomodoros and I make cards for every single Pomodoro. So I basically plan out my entire week in how much time that each task is going to take me in terms of Pomodoro. And then I have a goal of completing so many Pomodori per day. And that's sort of how I structure things. But as far as, like the kind of morning ritual routines, I don't really do that much. I mean, from time to time, maybe if I feel like I need to get something set up, like if I want to put something into a habit loop of mine, I might insert it into a habit that I already have in order to make sure that I do the thing. But aside from that, I don't really do the morning routines.
Mm-hmm. So you have the Pomodoro technique, however people like to vary as far as a time frame. Now I'm sure and this comes down to the discipline, right? Like there's times where, you got to get things done whether you feel like it or not. One thing that I like to tell, my audience personally is like the way you build that is not just when it's called for in that moment, like where you're going to go to work and it's like, all right, now I have to make that decision. Now it actually comes from like little ass micro decisions that has nothing to do with that leading like randomly in your day.
Right.
Do you feel like that as well? Like, do you just like, that's like kind of like a lifestyle that you live, right? Like, I don't feel like doing this specific thing, no matter how small it is, and that bleeds into other areas.
So there's a couple of things about that I've got a couple of philosophies on this. You'll find that I've got like philosophies for almost everything now. But I found what works. And here's what there's two things. So first of all is, I avoid making judgment calls, right? I think that if you make judgment calls, you will make bad judgment calls. As much discipline and willpower I have, if I am constantly bombarded with choices, I will make bad choices a majority of the time. So, and that's under duress in the moment, right? So if there's chocolate cake and there's, whatever, salad or egg whites, I'm going to choose a chocolate cake in the moment, right? Because I'm weak. All right. Now, I say this being someone who runs marathons and does all these things, right? The average person probably is slightly weaker than me as far as willpower, but that doesn't matter because, see, I have the superpower, the secret that makes my willpower seem a lot stronger than what it is, which is that I pre-make my decisions ahead of time. I don't make judgment calls. I don't make, like, when I went to do my run this morning, not 1 second in my mind did the thought come across my head, should I run today or not? It's on the calendar. It's scheduled. It's my run. I'm doing 10 miles today. That's it. Everything is, for me, is life or death. There is no thing that I never miss a workout. I never miss a thing that I'm supposed to do because I have made the decision ahead of time. And I stopped doing it now, but I ate one meal a day for 5 years. And I would only eat dinner. I'd fast until dinner every night. And it wasn't hard once I made the decision to do it. It's the way I look at it, the way I kind of explain it is, when you get to a stoplight and it's red, you don't decide whether you're going to run the stoplight. You've already made the decision ahead of time. Like, it doesn't even, sure, maybe it's inconvenient that you have to stop here and maybe there's no traffic coming the other direction, but you don't run through the red light. It's because you're not making the decision all the time. When it's time to go to work in the morning, I mean, most of us don't just skip work, right? It's not a choice anymore because we've made it into a commitment. We've pre-made the decision. And so what I've done is I've created a lot of rules for my life. Okay. And I always create rules for myself, and I pre-make those rules ahead of time so that all I have to do is follow the rule. I don't have to make a decision. If I have to make a decision all day long about bad habits or bad things, or should I do this or that, or do I feel like working, I'm going to make bad decisions and I'm going to fail. The other part of this that's connected to it is this idea of trusting yourself, of breaking trust with yourself. So most of us live lives where we do not trust ourselves. We have lost faith with ourselves. What I mean by that is that, well, here's a good example, right? For a lot of my coaching clients, what I do is I have them pick up their phone. Like on the first coaching call, I'm like, okay, I want you to just go to your clock app to alarms, and I want you to hold up your alarm screen. All right, let me see what's on there, right? And 90% of the people the guys that I coach, it's going to be like alarm at 5:30 a.m., 5:35 a.m., 5:40, 5:45, 5:50, right? And I'm like, what the fuck is all that? Delete all those alarms except for one. You get one alarm, okay? Because if you can't trust yourself to get up in the morning at the time that you told yourself you're going to get up in the morning, you can't trust yourself to do shit. How are you going to trust yourself to do anything in life if you are such a liar to yourself that you don't actually believe that you're actually going to get up when you said you're going to? It's not believing yourself. It's not believing yourself, right? So you've got this doubter, and there's a reason why you don't believe yourself. It's because you kept on lying to yourself, because you're like, oh, I'm going to get up in the morning, I'm going to go run, or I'm going to start eating healthy tomorrow, and then you don't. And then it's like pretty soon, your subconscious is like, yeah, this guy, yeah, he talks all this shit. Yeah, okay, let's put your little Nikes by the door. You're not going to fucking put them on and run in the morning. You're full of shit, right? And then morning comes around and he's like, yeah, I told you, you're not going to do it. Fuck it. Let's just go, just go get a donut. Fuck it, right? And then that's what you do. And so you don't trust yourself. Okay. And so if you don't have faith, if you don't trust yourself, then you're not going to be able to do anything. And in fact, this is so critical. This is the reason why I make it life or death, is because it literally is life or death. Because if I, in my mind, can't think a thought and make myself do it, if I don't have enough willpower, right? Ultimately, the way to find freedom is your ability to exert your will upon the world. Okay. If I can't even exert my will upon myself, I'm not living my life. I'm just a pinball in a pinball machine. What's happening in my life is just whatever happens to fire the right circuits in my brain that, oh, look, there's some candy over here. Oh, there's a stick over here, right? Whatever random events that happen in my life. I'm not actually directing my life. I'm only responding to events with a pre-programmed response. Okay. And I'm not controlling anything. So I'm not living my life. I might be watching a movie of my life. I think of it as being strapped, duct taped in the back seat of a car that's my life and someone else is driving. Okay. I want to be in the driver's seat. That scares the hell out of me. The idea of not being in the driver's seat, the idea of my life just being a random series of events that I have no control over, except for the few lucid moments that I realize this and then take control of the steering wheel. So what everyone has to do in life is you have to say, fuck this. I'm taking control of the steering wheel right now. And I'm not lying to myself anymore. I'm regaining trust with myself. It's like, the car alarms go off and they've, when car alarms first came out, I'm sure people are like, oh shit, someone's stealing a car. But now you hear a car alarm go off, you're like, oh fuck, the car alarm went off, right? You don't even think, oh, maybe someone's breaking into that car. Okay. Cause it's a false signal now. So you have to reset it. You have to say from now on, we're paying attention to car alarms. And every time we hear a car alarm go off, it's going to mean something, right? Because, and so that's what your word has to mean to yourself. You have to say, every time you tell yourself you're going to do something, you're going to do it, life or death. It doesn't fucking matter. If you can do it, you are going to do it because you're going to rebuild that trust with yourself. And you start with small commitments. You start with small things. You say, okay, and this is where I start with my coaching clients. I'm like, okay, your alarm, pick your alarm, whatever time. Tomorrow you're getting up at that time. Okay. Well, I need a backup alarm. What if I don't get up at that time? If you don't get up at that time, then you suffer the consequences. Then you go into work late and your boss says, why are you late? And you say, because I didn't get up when my alarm went off. And that's all you say. And then you accept whatever those consequences are, right? Otherwise you're getting up, right? And so once you start with those small things and you're like, okay, then you have your power to influence your world and your life changes dramatically because now I can think a thought in my head and I know it will happen, right? So when I sign up for this 100-mile race, all right, which is, it's a daunting thing. I'm going to be running for 24 hours straight. Okay. I know I'm going to do it. There's not a question. It's not, am I going to make all the training, or if I'm ready, I will be ready and I will run the race. Aside from something like breaking my ankle, luckily I avoided that. I only sprained it. But if it's within my power at all, it will happen because I've decided it, because I trust myself 100%, because I do not let myself down. And it's so important to keep that trust once you have it. And that's why, it's like sometimes I'll do crazy shit and people are like, why are you doing this? You don't even need to do this. And it's because I told myself I'm going to do it. So I'm going to do it, right? Regardless, I'm not letting myself off the hook. It doesn't matter if there's circumstances that are against me. And it's so important that we do this. And then we build that trust with ourselves and we keep that trust with ourselves, because that's the only thing that puts us in the steering, in the driver's seat of our car. Otherwise, our life is not our life.
Damn. Man, if I had like a bomb, like a sound effect, like a real Bradley, I would fucking drop it right there. That was powerful. Like, making the decisions beforehand and really sticking through with that, and just, start with those little things. I'm going to continue on that point. Everybody who's watching live in the Facebook group, if you have any questions for John, now would be the time to drop them. Hal Elrod talked about that in his book, Miracle Morning, where it's like when you snooze your alarm, you subconsciously tell yourself that it's okay for you to not follow through with the things that you say you're going to do.
Yep.
So here we have Kyle. He says, yeah, been to UPW. Yeah. We have Rosa, make your move. Tony Robbins is awesome.
There we go.
Yeah.
Make a move.
Make a move. I fucking love Tony. We have Omar. He has, what are some of your rules that have resulted in your best outcomes?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one of them was definitely the no eating until 5 p.m. when I did the 1 meal a day. That was a big one, because that resulted in, that just required a lot of discipline, and it helped me a lot physically. It was a lot easier to lose weight and to maintain a lean physique. Another rule that I had was, and I still have, is that if I start something, finish it, right? Always finish it. And that rule works both ways, right? Because it comes down to you don't make, you think about something before you start it, because you say, how will this end? Right? It's like Stephen Covey says, like, begin with the end in mind. So I have my own version of it. It's like, what's going to happen? Am I actually going to finish this thing? Because if I'm not going to start it. Because if I do start it, I must finish it. So So that's a solid rule that I have. And then I've created different rules at different times, right? Depending on what I'm trying to accomplish and do in life, right? So at one point when I was really hustling, and I still have rules around quotas, right? I have quotas every week, right? So I will always produce 3 YouTube videos a week. At one point I was doing 2 videos a day, and that was just my quota at that point. But now it's 3 videos a week. I'm going to do my Instagram posts 6 days a week that will come out. I will have my podcasts, and then I've got a few other ones, like a Bulldog Mindset lesson that I create every week. And I just do it every single week, that it's my rule that it must be done. At one point I had rules very strictly around how many Pomodoro that I need to get done in a day. I had it where I had to do 12 Pomodoro every single day. And I even made rules where I wouldn't eat until I did it, or I wouldn't, do my run until I did it, or things like that. So I think it's the way I would say like to use the rules is to use it based on what you need to accomplish. Like, think of it like in the long term, right? What will happen if you consistently apply this rule day after day, and then define rules based on that. So that's basically what I've done. So for example, when I wanted to grow my YouTube channel and get 100,000 subscribers, what I did was I said, okay, and I have a system for this. I call it, so instead of setting goals, what I do is I have aspirations. Aspirations are things that are outside of your control. So let's say making $1 million this year. You can't control that directly. Having a YouTube channel with 100,000 subscribers, can't control that directly. Okay. Those things are not good goals. So, but you can derive a goal from an aspiration. So I had an aspiration of having 100,000 subscriber YouTube channel. So I derived a goal from that, which in my definition, a goal is something that you have direct control over. And so what I did was I said, okay, I bet there's probably a 99% probability that if I have 2,000 videos on my YouTube channel, that I will have at least 100,000 subscribers, because I don't know any channels that have 2,000 videos that don't have at least 100,000 subscribers. So my goal was to make 2,000 videos that I have direct control over. I can control that. So I said, okay, I think at the time I had like 500 videos on my channel or 700. And I did the math and I said, okay, if I want to accomplish this in 2 years, what do I have to do? And what it came out to was 2 videos a day and 3 on Sunday. 15 a week is what I needed to do. So I made a rule that said every week you're going to do 15 YouTube videos, right? And so that rule allowed me, it guaranteed, if I followed that rule, I would guarantee reaching my goal, and I would have like a 98% chance probability of reaching my aspiration. Right. So it made it into a concrete thing. So that's how I define rules, is I look at that. I say, okay, what is the big aspiration I have? What are the goals that I have direct control over? Okay. And then how can I break that down into rules that will ensure that I reach those goals in the time frame that I set? That's the surest way to get an outcome that you want. And so many people have these stupid aspirations that they call goals, and they're like, oh, I want to be a millionaire. Okay, but you don't have control over that. You don't have control over that. You have control over how many hours you work in a day. You have control over how much YouTube videos you make. You have control over how many people you call on the phone to try and close on a sales call. You have control over all of those things, but you do not have control over how much money that you make in a year, or how many people subscribe to your YouTube channel, right? You can only control the things that you can control. So the best thing to do is to create rules that are going to lead you to the goals, which are the things that you directly control, that have a very, very high probability, if you achieve these goals, that it will achieve the aspiration.
Bam. Dang. Focus on what you can control. Yep. That's fantastic, man. Yeah. I'm definitely going to apply that. I write down my goals, like stuff that's out of my control, and I'm definitely going to revamp that. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, John, hey man, I really appreciate you being generous with your time, helping out my audience, giving back. Where can my people find you?
Yeah. So the best thing to do is just go to bulldogmindset.com. You'll see a little pop up there for the Bulldog quiz, or you can just go click on the tab to get the quiz. I suggest you take the quiz. The quiz is like a 10-question quiz. It's going to tell you what your Bulldog score is, what your mental toughness factor is, and all these things I talk about, from finance to fitness to relationships and having courage. It'll give you some ratings on there, and then I'll send you some information on how to increase that. And that's a good way to get introduced into my content, because from there, I'll feed you kind of the things that you need in order to grow in your life.
Awesome. And also, yeah, I've taken that quiz. I'll share my results with you once you do it. I'll share with my group here.
Nice.
John, again, thank you so much, my man.
Yeah. Take care.